This is a recording of the opening general session at the NY-GEO 2018 conference in Albany, New York, held on April 18th, 2018. There are about 300 people in attendance, and we kick things off by having John Ciovacco, a board member of NY-GEO, do some housekeeping and welcome everyone. Bill Nowak, the executive director of NY-GEO, thanks some sponsors and makes some remarks of his own, followed by John Franceschina, the president of NY-GEO, who will also introduce Alicia Barton, the president and CEO of NYSERDA, who will give the keynote address. Enjoy.
All right. Find your seats. Bring the meeting to order here. Stop doing business. Stop meeting people. It's not about you anymore. So welcome to NY-GEO 2018. Kind of like when you have checks in January, you have to remember what year it is. Because it looks very similar to 17, except for more folks. We have about 100 more registrants this year than we did last year, so that's about a third bigger. So, who is a first-time attendee? Just wow, holy crap! No, they don't need to stand. It was like everybody. Was anyone here last year? So I guess I'll introduce myself. My name is John Ciovacco. I'm the president of Aztec Geothermal, and my guys are the ushers that brought you in, and we're one of the local companies that does geothermal technology, so we get a lot of the extra work when it comes to the conference, which is just fine. But there's lots of other folks involved in the industry. You might get the sense that it's all Aztec all the time, and it's not at all. How many other folks here are involved in the geothermal industry actively right now? So there's lots of reference in this room that that you'll learn about, and certainly there'll be time to meet. Since we have 100 extra people, there'll be lots of togetherness down in the exhibit area, and especially during lunch, it'll probably be a little bit tight, and there'll be some limited seating, so some chivalry and kindness would be appreciated in terms of letting some folks sit down if they need to, but we'll do our best. So a couple of things to talk about. I'm a housekeeping guy. There's bathrooms if you go down that ramp and over there, and there's bathrooms if you go through that door right there, over there. So if you got trouble, that's where you go. There's also bathrooms right off the exhibit area. As you go down, there's a bunch of glass doors. They're right behind the exhibits on this side, and towards the front of the exhibit area, there's another set there. Everybody should have gotten one of these or something that looks like this. If yours is on a lanyard, it's double-sided, which is a really nice feature of our conference, the double-sided sled. I stole it from somebody else, but it is cool. You also got a couple of drink tickets that ZBF Geothermal has provided for us for our happy hour and dinner, so a couple of drinks. And you should have, if you are lunch for dinner, you might have gotten chicken or something like that. Now, if you know me well, I didn't order chicken. So if yours is wrong too, just be nice to us. The conference staff is Desiree, Kathy, and Michaela are down there. Zach has done a lot. Yeah. Yay! Billy Roberti had a lot to do. She was sort of on the tail end of getting information, but tried desperately to keep the website updated and help us out with that, which we appreciate. And of course, lots of folks from NYSERDA, it's almost too many to name, have been involved in trying to help us pull this together. And I'll introduce Bill Nowak in just a minute. Room proctors over here, this is Stonehenge B, this is Stonehenge C. And so when the sessions start, we're going to pull this divider over here, and this is where the B sessions are, which is the best practices track, and over there is the sustainability track. The sustainability track today is for CEU credits. So if you're someone that's inclined to get continuing education credits, you probably want to be over there. If you haven't signed up for that, you'll have an opportunity to do it Costs a little more if you want the actual credits, and we know a number of you already have. And Steve Kavanaugh is over there to start the morning. Then we've got Jay Egg and Kerry Smith. So we've got some terrific presenters over there today. And then over here, this is a little bit bigger room. We've got things that are not for CEU credit. The first 3 sessions over here today are all 1 CEU block. So you really need to stay for all 3 if you want to get 3 credit hours for some of the different things. So be mindful of that if that's your orientation. If you have questions about that, ask somebody, maybe when we break up. We have GEO 101 is in a separate room, and we also have some IXPA training that's finishing up. That's in a separate room. That's called the Capital Room. It's at the top of the stairs over there. So how many people are interested in going to GEO 101 today? By show of hands. There's only like 25 seats right now. I think we'll probably be okay. It's terrific. Jay does a beautiful job of that. So I know a couple of my guys are going to go. It's going to be fun. What else do I need to tell you? Be nice to the exhibitors. They paid a lot of money to be here. I added that last part. Everything happens pretty much down in that exhibit area. That's where you're going to be driven for lunches and breaks and things like that. That's where we go. Dinner, actually, this time is up here. Before it was in a separate room. It's up here. They have a 2-hour switchover, and so we'll be down there. We'll have a little longer time with the exhibitors, a little more time to drink. I saw a thing today that came through. It was like, get these quotes of the day, and it was, alcohol is borrowing happiness from tomorrow. Keep that in mind, maybe. Because we do have it tomorrow, and I want you to be here on time. Tomorrow is earlier. So if you're here at 9 o'clock tomorrow, you're a half an hour late. 8:30, you're going to be here. Today we started at 9. Tomorrow it's 8:30. And Donovan is speaking tomorrow, so you don't want to miss that. And maybe since most of you are new, you don't know who Donovan is. Donovan Gordon is the Director of Clean Heating and Cooling at NYSERDA. He'll be around. He does this around the class. He does. We're going to be recording most of the sessions and the slides. We're not recording the people speaking, but it'll just be a recording like that. We can't distribute all of them because of copyrights and things like that, but we'll try to get those out and posted as quickly as we can once the conference is over. Anything else that I'm forgetting that other people that are involved with this conference are wishing I would say? If not, then I'm going to bring Bill up. So Bill Nowak is the Executive Director of NY-GEO. We have a board, and he's the Executive Director that kind of keeps us all in line. He has just been kind of an amazing person. I'll take a kind of off that. He's an amazing person. He's really been terrific on all levels, and make sure that, like most of what is wonderful about us has been bound together by this guy, Bill. And he's going to talk to you in just a second.
331 registrants, at least 178 communities represented here, 26 states, more than half of the country's states, 2 provinces and 6 countries are represented here. I am impressed. Thank you so much for being here. I'll be very short. I wanted to thank our sponsors by name. I want to start with Water Furnace. Water Furnace was there with us from the beginning. They have been a key supporter of this organization. Without them, we couldn't be anywhere near what we are. So thank you, Water Furnace. NYSERDA is a prime sponsor. NYSERDA was a prime sponsor last year as well. NYSERDA is giving a great deal of effort to turning the heating sector in New York State renewable. And we owe them our thanks, and we're going to work closely with them. And I urge everyone in the room to pay attention to what NYSERDA is doing. This year, for the first time, Kilfrost is a prime sponsor. We're very excited about that. We urge you to go to their booth downstairs and to learn more about their product. Other sponsors include GeoStar, which each year has sponsored the Top Job competition. One of the most wonderful parts of this conference. Thank you, GeoStar, for your solid support that way. We have, for the happy hour today, ZBF Geothermal has stepped up. They're going to be our happy hour sponsor for the Wednesday lunch. Plimpton and Hills, a new sponsor in this conference. We're so glad to have them with us. And on Thursday, National Grid's going to be sponsoring the lunch. I have had the pleasure of working with many of you who weren't able to be here at full price and are here on a partial scholarship. You know, I've negotiated with each of you what you could afford, but the reason we've been able to do that is because we have scholarship sponsors. And that includes PSEG Long Island, it includes the Sierra Club Atlantic chapter, and it includes Versa Profiles, which has been one of the key supporters of this organization since its inception. So let's have a round of applause for those sponsors. Thank you so much. Like John, I urge you to spend time with our exhibitors. There are many thoughtful people down there who are working some great products and some great issues and initiatives. I would like to salute the NY-GEO board, and I would like to ask them to stand at this point. These folks have met 172 times over the last 4 years. Every week we have a meeting. These are busy business people who take time out of their schedule. Zach, please stay up. Zach Fink from ZBF, John Franceschina from PSEG Long Island, Jan Konikal from Buffalo Geothermal, and John Ciovacco from Aztec Geothermal. Is John Manning in the room? Yes, John Manning from Phoenix Energy. Thank you so much. With that, I would like to introduce our president, who is going to introduce our keynote. John Franceschina has been president of NY-GEO since its inception. He is the senior manager of energy efficiency program at PSEG Long Island and has been a key link between the industry, the utilities, and the community. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome John Franceschina.
Thank you very much, Bill. Good morning. Welcome to our 4th annual NY-GEO conference. This is it. This is the biggest one yet. I'm very proud of this organization. You know, the first thing I really like to do is thank John for his leadership in getting the conference together, John Ciovacco, and somehow I feel a little safer with all your guys in the dressed in black out there, with escorting people around. The whole Aztec team of armed guards are out there, so we greatly appreciate that, John. You know, there's a big red their tattoos. Yeah, we don't want to see their tattoos, but I trust they have a bunch of them. Okay. So thank you for that. And I also wanted to thank Bill. I mean, we meet, you know, whatever it was, 100 and something times. We have a lean and mean board. The folks are very, very dedicated, and they do a great job just focusing on these people with all full-time jobs. That the only one that has a full-time job concentrating on GEO is Bill, and I think we're going to have to adjust his compensation for the new minimum wage because he works so many hours. If you guys know, he works Sundays, Saturdays, nights. I don't even know if he sleeps, but somehow he gets a little sleep in there. But I want to have a big round of applause for Bill Nowak, our executive director. We have a great board, a bunch of smart people. These guys are all great. But without Bill, we don't have 300 people in the room here today. So thanks very much, Bill, for your leadership and your dedication to this movement. Let's see. So I also want to thank the sponsors. Again, without the sponsors and the exhibitors, you know, we run conferences like these on Long Island, and while a lot of people do a lot of work, and you can get speakers and things like that, someone's got to pay the bill, and if we don't have the exhibitors and sponsors, you just don't have a conference. So every year this conference gets bigger and bigger, and thanks to the support of all you folks in here, especially the exhibitors and sponsors that put out a little bit more money to ensure that we have a great conference. You know, last year at this time was a little bit of a, you know, little changes were going on. We didn't have the tax credit all of a sudden disappeared, so everybody was kind of a little panicky. It was like a little black cloud over our conference last year. But I think most of the speakers, myself included, said, hey, you know, we got to just keep moving forward. And we ended up doing, I mean, as Pete said, we ended up from 16 to 17. We ended up like a 50% increase almost on the amount of installs that we've done in our service territory, which is great. So now the tax credit's back. Thanks to Ryan, he's going to be speaking, I think, either tonight or tomorrow. So we'll probably explain, you know, what went on behind the scenes with the tax credit. But the tax credit was was fantastic. HPA guys, everybody. And also Bill and the folks in this room, anybody who sent letters to their local congresspeople to support that credit. I think they got so many letters that finally, once it went through, it's like, okay, I know this thing, let's push it through. And it went through, and we're all grateful that it did. It kind of helps the business over the next several years. But we still need to prepare, as you know, for no tax credits, just like solar folks. Little by little, the subsidies go away, and we have to have a good business. The business has to be sustainable, and it has to be sustainable without those extra subsidies. In the meantime, we use the subsidies to grow the business, but eventually the subsidies are going to disappear, so we have to understand that. Okay, as far as membership goes, there's a lot of folks that need to use more members. So if you're in this room and you haven't become a member yet, especially some of the businesses that are benefiting from the organization, we'd like to invite you to become a member. There's a lot of benefits to becoming a member. Get your name up on the website. You get all the benefits of being NY-GEO member. You're part of this great movement. You're here today, so think about becoming a member if you're not a member. Greatly appreciate it. Also, I want to announce that we're going to do some training on Long Island. We're going to do it in conjunction with HPA, NY-GEO, SUNY Farmingdale, and PSEG Long Island. We're going to have the HPA certified training. We're going to do all 3 classes: the installer, the designer, and the inspector training. So we don't have dates for it yet, but if you're interested in doing that, and you're going to be on Long Island, and you want to come into the training, we're going to do it with Marge over at SUNY Farmingdale. So you can see Marge, wherever Marge is. Where's Marge's in the back there? So you can either see Marge directly, or myself, or Jack, or Bill. If you're interested in that, we'll put you on the mailing list, and as soon as we finalize the details, get the dates, we'll be sending it out through the NY-GEO list, the Bill's list. Okay? Also last year, we were also, if you remember, we were kind of a little nervous because someone who we had a very good relationship that's going to be speaking at the dinner tonight, John Rhodes, was head of NYSERDA back then, and all of a sudden he wasn't head of NYSERDA anymore, he went over to DPS. So we're like, okay, it's great that he's over at DPS now because we had a good relationship with Audrey, but we had a good relationship with John, and that's good. Then we're like, who's going to head up NYSERDA? We were a little nervous, right? And then once word came out, it was going to be Alicia Barton, and everyone's like, we weren't really sure who Alicia Barton was. But the good news is that she came in and she took over for John, and she's done some amazing things over the last year, and we couldn't be more happier that she took over for John. John left gets great leadership there, and Alicia just came in a very short period of time. She's been there less than a year, and there's already a lot of great things going on, so we greatly appreciate that. And she's our keynote this morning, and I have the honor of introducing her. So Alicia Barton was appointed President and CEO of the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. If anybody doesn't know what that is, that's NYSERDA. And she also, prior to her appointment at NYSERDA, she served as co-chair of the Energy and Clean Tech Practice at Foley Hoag, LLP, a global law firm based in Boston. She also served as the CEO of the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center, a publicly supported agency that funds and accelerates the development of the clean energy sector. And prior to serving as CEO of MassCEC, Ms. Barton was the Deputy Commissioner for Policy and Planning for the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. She was also Assistant Secretary for the Environmental Review and Director of the Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act Office and Deputy General Counsel at the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. She has a law degree from Boston College. Please join me in welcoming Alicia Barton.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you, John, for that very kind introduction. As you can tell, I am new to New York, which is possibly why folks had to do the aggressive Googling when my announcement came out. But I'm delighted to be here. Really could not be more pleased to be part of what NYSERDA and New York are working on at this moment in time. I also want to say, since I am new to New York, this is my first time at the NY-GEO conference, so I'm really delighted to be here. Fantastic to see so many people, and congratulations on your work growing this conference, which is obviously an indication of the growth and enthusiasm in this industry right now. So this is an incredibly important and exciting time to be having the conversations that all of you are going to be having here today. And on my behalf and on behalf of my many colleagues from NYSERDA who are here today, and there are quite a few of us here, we're really delighted to be your partners in this conversation and in the work ahead to really drive towards some exciting opportunities and in this field, which is growing so rapidly. And it was terrific also to know that you have so many attendees that are from out of state and from out of the country as well. And I want to welcome you to New York. And unfortunately apologize a little bit for the snow flurries that we're flying around this morning, even though it's mid-April. This has been a bit of an adjustment for me as well, being new to upstate New York, to see winter hanging on so persistently. But we are looking forward, and despite the challenges that the weather is producing, we are, I think, could not be at a more exciting moment in time here in New York State. And I want to tell you a little bit about the big picture, what we're doing, and how your work in this industry really fits in. So under Governor Cuomo's leadership for the last 7 years, New York has become a national and international leader when it comes to our efforts to fight global climate change and advance clean energy solutions. Governor Cuomo's signature Reforming the Energy Vision, or REV initiative, is a strategy to build a clean, resilient, and affordable energy system for all New Yorkers. REV is transforming New York State's energy policy and initiatives to make sure energy efficiency and clean, locally produced power are at the core of our state energy system. It's also putting customers first by designing new initiatives to impact real people and provide individuals and communities with the opportunity to take an active role in achieving some of our state's ambitious targets for the year 2030. First, we've set a commitment to obtain 40% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions below 1990 levels by the year 2030. That is a nation-leading commitment to reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. The reduction is absolutely critical to protecting the health and welfare of New Yorkers and really to our global efforts to reduce carbon emissions and fight climate change. Second key target we have ahead of us is implementing the governor's aggressive clean energy standard, which requires the state to obtain 50% of its electricity from renewable energy sources by the year 2030. That is also a nation-leading commitment and is an aggressive, but I think eminently achievable target for the state to hit. We do have our work ahead of us, though. As we're sitting here today, we have about 28% of our electricity supply comes from renewable energy sources. So we need to take that 28% all the way to 50% in just a little bit over a decade. And finally, an aggressive approach to energy efficiency is the final cornerstone of our clean energy and climate change initiative. And this is something that is very timely in terms of our conversation here in New York, given that earlier this year in his State of the State address, Governor Cuomo charged NYSERDA and the other energy agencies, including our colleagues at the Department of Public Service, with setting out a new ambitious target for achievement in energy efficiency, which the way we think about that includes clean heating and cooling technologies, by Earth Day, which is Sunday coming up, April 22nd. So we are in the final sprint to put the final touches on what we hope and expect will be an incredibly exciting announcement from the governor about a new path for the state to go even deeper when it comes to energy efficiency achievement and to highlight the role that clean heating and cooling technologies play in helping us drive forward with efficiency as a core component of our strategy to meet the climate targets we set. And this is a really important time to be doing this work at the state level. Unfortunately, we are at a moment when the U.S. government, I believe, has abdicated our global and generational responsibility to play a part in addressing climate change by walking away from the Paris Climate Accords. The good news is that states have stepped up to fill that vacuum, and I'm very honored to be part of the team here in New York because Governor Cuomo has been providing so much leadership on this issue, and he was one of the 3 founding members of the U.S. Climate Alliance that was founded earlier this year, which is now a bipartisan group of 16 states and Puerto Rico, who have committed to meeting or exceeding our respective contributions to the U.S. share of the U.S. Climate Accord, of the Paris Climate Accord. So that's an incredibly important commitment. Collectively, those states make up almost half of the U.S. population and U.S. GDP. So this is a substantial indication that the United States has a significant role to play in moving forward on climate change. So one primary focus for our work in New York, as I mentioned, is to decrease energy consumption in buildings and make them more efficient. Heating and cooling in buildings is responsible for approximately 32% of New York's energy-related greenhouse gas emissions. Renewable or clean heating and cooling technologies such as geothermal heat pumps can reduce greenhouse gas emissions from buildings and put us on a path towards achieving those ambitious clean energy goals that we have set out in New York State. That's why it's so important for all of us gathered here today to be working together, because the need to bring this technology into the market at quite an accelerated pace is just so critical to our overall efforts. Currently, fossil fuel-based energy, primarily natural gas, propane, and oil, is the main source of energy for heating and domestic hot water in residential and commercial buildings. We can change this with geothermal heat pumps, which can replace fossil fuels heating to reduce the amount of harmful carbon emissions. Heat pumps not only provide environmental benefits, they can provide energy bill savings, increase comfort levels, and health benefits compared to conventional heating and cooling technology. These are all priorities for us as we look to empower energy consumers with better choices. And that's why New York is investing in this technology. Over the past year, we have seen more attention focusing on these clean energy systems than ever before. For example, last month there was a great article in the New York Times about St. Patrick's Cathedral, which is in the heart of Manhattan. The cathedral announced that it had installed geothermal systems to replace its steam boiler and air conditioning system that had been installed almost 60 years ago. The cathedral believes this to be the largest such system in the city, and it's a great milestone of the progress that we're starting to see take place. And in Dutchess County, the village of Rhinebeck recently approved an energy plan giving Dandelion, a New York-based company, permission to use the village rights-of-way to construct systems that would allow residents to change their heating and cooling systems to geothermal. It's believed to be the first community-wide type project of this kind in the country, and I want to take a minute to congratulate Dandelion, which is a client in one of NYSERDA-sponsored clean tech incubators, Acre, down in New York City, for their work on this pioneering project. I also want to acknowledge the members of Ground Up, the Alliance of Western New York Contractors that offer standardized pricing and installations. And that type of standardization we know is going to be a critical piece of the puzzle to making this technology more accessible to consumers. And this is exactly the type of forward progress this industry needs to be doing at this point. These are really terrific examples of what we are trying to accomplish in New York. Together with the progress all of you are making on the ground, it's clear that geothermal is really picking up momentum. And that's why New York has initiated one of the most diverse geothermal heat pump programs in the nation. We're doing this by taking a holistic approach to accelerate all facets of the industry. It was just over a year ago that NYSERDA issued its renewable heating and policy framework, which set out policy options to lower costs, reduce barriers, and grow the market. Since then, NYSERDA has made more than $30 million available for a variety of clean heating and cooling initiatives to help accelerate the use of these systems, including providing workforce training for architects and engineers, rebates to help offset the costs of installations, developing marketing plans to increase consumer awareness, and launching community-based programs. These are all efforts that we are pushing forward in parallel, and these initiatives can bring heat pumps to residences, small and large commercial buildings, schools, and healthcare organizations. And Donovan Gordon, who leads our efforts at NYSERDA, who was already introduced this morning, will be talking more about this in his remarks tomorrow for more details, but we do have a lot going on. At the same time, we need a consistent engagement from the industry to tell us whether these initiatives are meeting the market needs, what you're hearing from consumers and customers that you're engaging with every day, working together to tackle some of the challenges to drive down costs, both technology costs and soft costs, and really picking up our collective efforts to make this a technology and a solution that's more accessible than ever before. One other project I wanted to mention, NYSERDA is also installing 35 ground source heat pump systems throughout Long Island region, and we have partnered with National Grid and PSEG to conduct a geothermal demonstration project with a common loop field serving 10 homes in Riverhead on Long Island, and I had the opportunity to be there as part of the announcement of that project, which is, again, one of those really novel new models that's part of the suite of solutions and the type of testing we need to do to advance the ball on this. So we'll be working with our partners on Long Island to collect and analyze information for all of those installations, share it with utilities, financiers, project developers throughout the state so that they can understand the performance of the equipment and hopefully drive towards greater investment in clean heating and cooling technologies in other areas of the state. In addition, we are working with the New York Power Authority, or NYSERDA, and the Department of Public Service on other initiatives to promote and support the geothermal industry. To achieve our ambitious 40% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, we need to significantly scale up the market, raise awareness for consumers, and provide affordable financing solutions. When we look at the scenarios and the path to meeting 40 by 30, we don't see an option other than to significantly increase our reliance on clean heating and cooling technologies and start to drive fossil fuel consumption out of the building stock at a much faster level than we have seen yet to date. That poses an incredible challenge, but we are seeing signs of progress. We've already seen the cost of installing geothermal systems come down more than 25% over the past year due to new business model innovations and standardization of pricing and installation. We're watching the workforce expand as well in this sector, which is a subsector of the overall clean energy workforce in the state. And this is a topic I really can't spend enough time talking about because I'm so excited to see what's happening on the ground in communities across the state and in the overall New York State workforce. Last year, NYSERDA released a report that indicated that there are now 146,000 people working in clean energy jobs in New York State. That is somewhat small compared to the entire economy, but it's growing at an incredibly fast rate, much faster than the rate of the overall economy. And when you look at those 146,000 workers, 110,000 of those are in the energy efficiency sector, which again we would consider to include clean heating and cooling technology. This is an incredibly exciting trend that is really reinforcing, I think, to policymakers at the state and local level why it is so important to keep investing in clean energy technologies. We know that it's a smart strategy not only for meeting our environmental goals and our clean energy goals, but for growing our economy as well. So there's a lot of things happening, and we are really excited at the progress we're seeing and the growth that we foresee ahead. But I can't stress enough how critical it is for all of us to be working together to try and find better solutions to get from where we are today to where we need to be in 2030. The changes that we need to see in the heating and cooling sector, it's going to require a lot. And it's going to require all of us to think differently and to find new ways to make these offerings attractive, available, and affordable for New York Energy consumers. NYSERDA is really committed to working with you on that. We are invested in that outcome. We are excited about the promise of this industry, and we are, again, delighted to be here as part of the conversation today and going forward. Thank you.
So Alicia will take some questions. We'll try to wrap up probably around 5 of or a little before that because we need to separate these 2 session rooms. But she'll take a few questions and I'll come around with a wireless mic. There's also a microphone over here that people can go to if they want to if they have a question.
There you go.
La 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 la.
Thank you so much for that inspiring speech. I come from Long Island, and I've heard estimates that about 60,000 heating systems need to be replaced yearly. And right now, I'd say 99.9% of them are getting replaced with fossil fuel technologies. Given that this is a 20 to 30-year investment, every year we're losing 60,000 systems that some of them could be converted to geothermal, and that the next option for them is going to be past 2030. So I'm wondering, what can we do to convince some of these or more of these 60,000 homeowners who need to update their systems to go geothermal?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we think about that all the time. The sense of urgency is very real because, again, for example, our climate goals that are targeted at 2030, that's a relatively short snapshot of time. And exactly to your point about locking in technology choices at the moment, when a new heating or cooling or system is needed, is a decision that does put us outside that time horizon. So we really can't afford to lose a moment. To the question of what can we do to influence that action now, I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and those are some of the things we are trying to accomplish. Clearly, consumer awareness of this technology and understanding is a critical barrier. It just isn't the first thing that everyone thinks of. It's technologically complicated, and people need to get comfort with this different type of approach to something that's critically important. Everybody takes improvements to their homes very personally, very seriously, and in that type of decision making, things that are unfamiliar can feel difficult or risky. So we have to collectively, as an industry, we collectively as a state, collectively with our utility partners, be educating consumers quite a bit. We also do need to focus on better ways to bring the cost down, and that is both, again, from an innovation standpoint, but also from a scaling standpoint, so that projects can be more standardized. And we are looking hard at the state level, as I mentioned, particularly in the context of the governor's challenge to us to set a new target for energy efficiency for additional ways we can provide the right types of incentives for consumers to make this choice. We're looking hard at what else could we do beyond the efforts I already mentioned, which I think are substantial. Again, we've already made available $30 million in funding, but I think it's clear we have to think differently about the road ahead for this technology.
I'll take you here.
I'm a home energy efficiency auditor. I'm also a certified geothermal installer. And I'm finding a lot of difficulty in being able to do this job because of NYSERDA's policies towards the way I get paid and the incentives that are available in terms of financing for homeowners. What is the residential housing stock? About 80% of all the buildings in New York. This isn't going to happen just through addressing commercial. Residential needs to be addressed. And when home energy audits don't get paid for 4 to 6 weeks from NYSERDA, I start to have second thoughts about how serious New York State and NYSERDA are about these goals, because you have to support boots on the ground. NYSERDA has also withdrawn low-interest funding, low-interest loans. They've gone from across-the-board 3.49%, which is very affordable, to a range that goes up to almost 80%. So my job is a lot harder to convince, first, to just sustain myself, and to convince homeowners that by reducing their energy usage, they can get a smaller and less costly and more effective geothermal system. And I really would like to see NYSERDA take that part into account, because New York is not going to achieve these goals without addressing the residential housing stock.
Well, I really appreciate you raising the challenges that you're facing, and I want to reassure you First, that the commitment is sincere and it's not wavering. We are committed to doing our best to help empower the industry, including significantly in the residential sector, to make progress. I hear the challenge you're facing in the way we administer the program, and I'll talk to the team about that. Undoubtedly, there's always room for improvement when it comes to administration of programs, and I take the feedback from users of our programs very seriously. But the commitment, I can assure you, is there. On the financing question and the change in interest rates, I certainly am aware of the challenge that has posed for some. I think that's part of the ongoing conversation about how do we really move to long-term solutions. And the concern was on the flip side that NYSERDA's capital through the Green Jobs in New York program was in fact crowding out other lenders who might and undercutting them with subsidized interest rates. And we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we are helping create a thriving market for financing these systems for the long term. It really can't be NYSERDA-led off into the future, so we've got to find that right balance. And we are doing our best to try and find that balance, and again, committed to working with stakeholders who will give us the type of feedback about whether we're getting it right or wrong, and I appreciate the comments that you made.
I want to say quickly that there's a session right after this on an update of NYSERDA programs, and there is some good stuff on financing that we're coming up with. Good.
John, we have about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, first, let me just say thank you to you and everybody else at NYSERDA for the wonderful work you've been doing in supporting Clean Heat in the last couple of years. But while you guys are doing that, we've got a lot of state support for, I guess we'd have to call it unclean heat. For instance, right now the state requires the utilities to provide gas service to anybody who demands it, as long as they're within either 100 or 200 feet. And then thousands of dollars, as much as $10,000 to $15,000 of capital cost, the cost of installing that stuff, is socialized. It's spread. It's put in the rate base and paid by all the other ratepayers. Whereas if you do geothermal or something else, which is clean heat, you got to pay all the money yourself. And then we got electric rates, where even though the geothermal people users are reducing the cost of the grid by reducing peak demand during the summer, they end up paying as much as twice as much in terms of delivery charges, which are supposed to be fixed costs. So I guess the question would be is, what's the strategy if we really want to move towards clean heat and clean technologies and the rest? What is the strategy for essentially backing off on all the tremendous support that we now provide in the state, through taxpayers and ratepayers for unclean heat and for all the things that are keeping us from essentially meeting our environmental and our climate change goals?
So I appreciate the question, and thank you for raising the issues around the potentially perverse incentives around transitioning to some of these technologies in the rate structure and the way that moving onto the electric system, what that does to your electricity bill. We're really looking hard at that and understand that's one of those areas where if we try to align the incentives a little bit better, I think we can reach a better balance. So that's something we are taking a close look at. In terms of the overall strategy, it is again we are working hard to lay that out. I do want to say though, I think we have to recognize there is going to be a transition and that we see a significant ramp up in this technology, but we can't just get there from without a running start. So I think what we're really focusing on is trying to support the ability of clean heating and cooling technologies, again, to get better awareness with consumers, better financing solutions and incentives, and we've done some work around that. We have more work ahead of us to do, and to try and launch those efforts in a way that will allow homeowners to find the value that they're looking for when they're making that energy choice.
I'm going to take one more question, and I apologize for all the hands that came up that we're not getting to.
Hi, Chris Carrick, Central New York Regional Planning Board. Regarding financing, I wonder if NYSERDA has done an analysis of the impact that residential PACE financing could provide in terms of uptake of these technologies.
Yeah, we have been. NYSERDA's actually been taking a look at the potential for residential PACE in New York State for a number of years. It is one that we do think is on the list of financing solutions that could be really impactful. I think the challenge recently with residential PACE nationally is that there has been, some opposition from consumer protection advocates, and we're trying to make sure that we understand those concerns quite clearly. We take consumer protection extremely seriously, as you might imagine. So our approach has been to try and, think ahead on some of those issues before we launch forward into residential PACE. We have implemented PACE at the commercial level in New York State, and a number of communities have adopted it. But it's something that we are still actively taking a look at, although, again, I think there's additional work to be done to make sure we can strike the right balance of making the tool available in a way that is going to be fully protective of consumers.
Very good. Thanks so much, Alicia, for coming in.
We hope you enjoyed this presentation from the NY-GEO 2018 conference. We would like to thank our sponsors, exhibitors, speakers, and attendees for making this such a great event. For more information on this conference, including speaker bios, presentation slides, great photographs, and more session recordings, go to our website at nygeo.org. That's ny-geo.org. Thanks.